Hey everyone, this is Sam from Other Side Gaming, and welcome back to Respect Your Elders. Finally, thank God. Anyways, today we're talking about a pretty revolutionary game that was actually on a failing console. And it was created by a man who I consider to be a genius, Hideo Kojima. No, it's not a Metal Gear game, but it was, in fact, probably one of his better known games. Today we're talking about Snatcher on the Sega CD. What? You've never heard of such a game? Well, allow me to educate you. Yeah, okay, jump. Snatcher was originally released on the NEC PC 8801 and the MSX2 computer platforms in 1988 in Japan. Soon after, a CD-ROM based remake was made on the PC Engine, which was then ported and localized to English on the short-lived Sega CD in 1994. The Sega CD was one of Sega's attempts at prolonging the life of the Sega Genesis. It was originally intended to compete with the PC Engine CD add-on in Japan. The initial failure of the Sega CD had a multitude of components, but the one that I believe that put the nail in the coffin was the $300 price point. It doesn't seem like much today, considering that the Wii U is selling at that price for the basic system, but back then, it was probably much more like how people reacted to the PS3's $600 price point. The basic point being that the technology was too new for the time, and therefore, much too expensive. Sega tried to fix the problem with the 32X, but that flopped harder than the voyage of the Titanic. Nonetheless, there are some classics out there for the system, like Sonic CD, Night Trap, and even Snatcher itself is a great addition to the Sega CD library. Snatcher is a cyberpunk point-and-click-esque adventure game with a first-person perspective that plays out much like a graphic novel. At a first glance, you can tell right away that Snatcher borrows heavily from other sci-fi fiction films such as Blade Runner and The Terminator. The game sets the tone right away with an explosion and the creation and discovery of Snatchers. Snatchers are essentially robots that have been killing humans and then taking their role in society. The game is set on an artificial island in Neo-Kobe City, where Snatchers have been running amok. As the player, you take the role of Gillian Seed, who is part of an anti-Snatcher task force known as Junker. It's your job to figure out the source of the Snatchers and put a stop to it. However, that's not your only problem. Recently, both Gillian and his wife Jamie have suffered from extreme cases of amnesia and must figure out their past together. Snatcher is a very strange beast of a game. It's one part point and click, one part investigation simulation, and another part light gun game, and even a little dash of dating simulation. No, I'm not kidding. To interact with the environment, you are given a list of things that you can do, which normally comes down to look, investigate, ask, or move. Throughout most of the game, it will be your job to figure out the different mysteries and puzzles to ultimately solve the Snatcher problem. But hey, our hero can't be alone on all this, right? Metal Gear, why don't you go introduce yourself? Yeah, that's Metal Gear. He may not be nearly as deadly, but he definitely helps you out when you're stumped on a clue. He can also help by calling various people via video phone. When you're not traveling from location to location looking for clues, you'll be hunting down Snatchers with your good old laser pistol. This game is actually compatible with the Konami Justifier, but unfortunately for me, I just have the good old regular 6-button Genesis controller. In these portions of the game, you'll be given a 3x3 grid in which enemies will appear. All you have to do is push the D-pad in the direction that they're in and fire away. These parts aren't extremely difficult, but it might put up a bit of a challenge, especially if you're using the Justifier. Unfortunately, this is the only real interaction that the player has in the game. The game itself is kind of like an interactive movie, but hey, it's a good one at that. For me, what makes Snatcher so great is the story and the atmosphere. The story itself holds up actually pretty well, even if it does have a simple gimmick like amnesia. It's a well-told story and it deserves to be retold. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you anything about it because I want you to experience it for yourself. However, I can go on forever about the atmosphere. The graphics and the music are absolutely perfect for the game. And if I might add, back in the day, this game would never have seen the light of day on a Nintendo console. Not because of technical limitations, but because of its content. Snatcher is surprisingly graphic. There were a few scenes that made me say, "Ugh, that's disgusting." Not only that, but like classic Kojima, there are tons of sexual innuendos and content. Some are more humorous than others, but it's definitely a little mature for the teen rating. But hey, maybe that's just me. In Japan, most of the scenes that I'm talking about actually include nudity. Well, maybe I'm not so crazy. Not to mention that this game is completely voice acted, and quite well at that. While sometimes it may sound a little cheesy, all the performances sound fantastic. Another factor that makes me absolutely love this game is all the personal touches that were added into the game. For example, in the nightclub, Outer Heaven, another Metal Gear reference, you can see Sparkster from Rocket Knight Adventures, Simon Belmont and Dracula from Castlevania, Goemon from Legend of the Mystical Ninja, and Bill and What's-His-Face from Contra. Also, if you look up Hideo Kojima in the game's computer database, you'll actually find him. There's so many funny jokes and so much personality in this game that sometimes you can't help but laugh.
I want my pizza! Where's my pizza?
And that leads me to my final point. Hideo Kojima is an absolute genius. It seems like whatever he makes has so much appeal that people can't help but like it. And you can't even tell me that Metal Gear Solid 5, disguised as a Phantom Pain, wasn't absolutely fucking amazing. My mind was literally blown. There are so many secrets in all of his games, just like the ghost pictures from Metal Gear Solid, or even the desktop screens of Metal Gear Solid 4 for Police Knots and Zone of the Enders. We need more innovators like Kojima in the video game industry. Lately, I feel like a lot of video games have been going with the "if it's not broke, don't fix it" policy. I'm looking at you, Call of Duty Ghosts. But I love that every time Kojima makes a new game, it always innovates in whatever genre it's in. Snatcher is a fantastic game that everyone should play, in my personal opinion. With the story, performances, and the atmosphere, it's pretty hard not to like this game. Unfortunately, because the game received such a cult following, it's hard to find a copy for yourself. Normally, if you do find one, you're going to be paying the high price of around $200. If you get the chance to play the game, you won't regret it. This has been Sam from Other Side Gaming, and if you haven't thought about your ancestors lately, think again. I'll see you next time.